who I've been working on for quite some time. And our brother Wakeel, Allah took my invitation, and he's honoring us with his presence this evening. First of all, assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Kareem, sir. Walaikum salam to Sarisa Pearl. Thank you for always showing support as well, ma'am. Brother Wakeel, first of all, this is an honor. It's an extreme honor. I want to say before we get started, my sophomore year of college, you showed so much love by I was doing a history class. I'm a history major, and I needed some documentation of to defend my argument on point number 12. And you drove to my college and gave me the books for free. And I said, "Oh man, this is a brother. Nobody knew about it or nothing." And you helped me, pass that class with just being a brother, man. I thank you very much, brother Wakeel, for that.
Oh, yes, sir. The honor is mine, beloved brother. The honor is mine, always, brother Joshua. And brother, as of course, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, who came in the divine person, the Master Prophet Muhammad, to whom holy praise is due forever. And all praise is due to Allah for giving us the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, his living Christ. And we are forever thankful for these two. To give it to us, our dear beloved brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the divine reminder in our midst. So beloved brother, assalamu alaikum to you and your wonderful audience that you have. Brother, you say the honor is yours, but the honor is definitely mine. It's like Master Prophet Muhammad said he would climb a mountain 40 miles high.
Yes, sir.
For me to drive a few miles, brother, and share the wisdom with you, brother, I would do much more if Allah can empower us to do more. So anything for my brother, I want for my brother what I want for myself, as we are taught in the Nation of Islam. So it's a great honor. You've been doing a powerful work, dealing with the history, uncovering the many different stories of brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam and friends and supporters. So brother, the honor is mine. It's good to know that the future is in good hands. And much respect to you and your family, your dear father, Brother Minister Sharif Muhammad. Brother, got great honor and respect for him. I can't wait to dig into his book, because I know it just came out. I got to dig into that, because me and him talked about that before, his history with the dope busters. Very powerful history. Yeah, brother, I got some good stories about how I was thoroughly impressed by your father as a supreme captain of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
My first impression. Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you all for your comments. Sister Teresa Person, Ramadan Kareem, Brother Michael Muhammad saying Ramadan Mubarak. Walaikum salam, Ramadan Kareem to you all. Okay, let's get straight into it. Brother Wakeel, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Yes, brother. I grew up, first of all, I will say this. I grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey. Born in '69, so I was kind of born into a city where there was a lot of things that was happening, a lot of things was going on as related to Black America. And this city was what you would call like Parliament Funkadelic, as George Clinton would say, was a chocolate city, became a chocolate city. So I grew up in an all Black community, all Black city. And the power brokers in that city, for the most part, was all affiliated with the Nation of Islam or the Black Power movement. And I had an aunt who was a member of the Nation of Islam in Temple number 80, a mosque number 80 in Plainfield, New Jersey, Brenda Muhammad. So I was exposed to the teachings coming up initially through them. But at that phase, that's when everybody was going through the transition with Imam W.D. Muhammad. So I didn't know verbatim, what the teachings were exactly. However, I only had to stick around for 2 years, from 75 to 77 to 78. And then, we noticed that there was a movement going on in our city. And it was a brother who came to the city to teach. And I'm learning about this brother for the first time. We talking about like the late 70s. And it was Minister Louis Farrakhan. So Minister Louis Farrakhan, he had come to speak in Plainfield. And I believe that was the first time that he spoke as it related to the resurrection of the Nation of Islam. And when he came to the city, I believe he was by himself, per what I was told, per the history. And some of the brothers that was there in Plainfield, that was from the Nation of Islam, that was ready to stand up to resurrect the Nation of Islam, to rebuild the Nation of Islam. Once they saw the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaking the word. And so these brothers, and the brother is Minister Abdul Kareem Muhammad, aka the General.
Yes, sir.
We all know this great brother. And so really through him, he was like the figurehead for the city, you know, and we were young, and many of us, we were in what you would call, I guess they would call them gangs, but we call them social clubs at the time. But we had these different youth organizations. And just being on my bike, you know, 10 or 11, just riding through the city, you would encounter some of the brothers, the FOI, you know, they were suited and booted. The brothers had the slick waves, and that's what we were calling it, the temple.
Yes, sir.
And they were just high-powered, powerful wisdom, very militant, you know, the maneuvers and everything. And I remember I had saw Brother Minister Kareem. And I remember I was outside of this little ice cream place. This little ice cream place on West Front Street. And he came up to me. He was like, young brother, you know, started talking like that. And I was like, oh, wow, this is brother. At the time, you know, I know him as Mr. Cathcart. And it's so funny because I guess that's a slave name, but I thought that was a Muslim name because of who he was.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, he just told me, he was very militant and speaking to me. And he said to me, I remember this. He said, brother, if somebody was to touch one hair on your head, I could have a whole army come to protect you. Right? I didn't really know him. You know what I mean? So I thought that was deep. And then, you know, it came out that he knew Brother Farrakhan. And I thought that was just like, really? You know, because I didn't really think anybody could know such a great, powerful figure. In my mind, they said he would come in on helicopters. It was all these different urban legends about, you know, Brother Farrakhan. And when you're in a youth organization and you look up and you see the FOI, you aspire to be like, oh, you know what? That's how we're supposed to be. So that's kind of how I initially was exposed to the visual, to the example, you know. And then I was walking down the street one day, going to school, and on this abandoned building, had this beautiful picture. You know, it was a beautiful poster, and it was light blue background. This brother looked like an angel, you know, and it was Brother Farrakhan. That's when I really got a good look at him, you know. So I was observing, like, wow, this is that brother. And I think he was coming to New York, or he had something coming out at the time. I don't know if it was a Unity album, but it looked like that was the backdrop to the poster that I saw. So I was just inspired via the visuals of the Nation of Islam, an example. And I can't forget this, brother, and that delicious bean pie the Muslims when we were young, brother, that was something else, like, man. And Brother Alpha Farrakhan, he's the one that make the pie. It was the Alpha bean pies. So being exposed to it there, but I really got into the meat of it. Like I said, we were in youth organizations, street organizations. So at one point in time, the different gangs, we all kind of morphed over into the 5% Nation. So when the teachings of the 5%ers had come, we didn't really delineate, you know, the two, except that they say, okay, well, this right here is for us. This is for the youth, you know, because we were too young, 13 and 14. You couldn't join the temple at that age. They would let you go down there and visit, but you couldn't join. And we probably wasn't trying to join anyway. If you know, we were young, 13, 14.
Yes, sir.
We didn't have the discipline. And so, but a couple of brothers did eventually in our high school joined the temple, you know, when it was like in senior year, you know, so some of them joined like after at 16, you can get permission from your parents to get joined. So I think one brother joined at 16, then another brother joined when we were seniors at 17. But I got the meat of the teaching in the history or the lessons, or my knowledge of the lessons through that vehicle, the 5%ers, which in Plainfield was all synonymous. We was all one focus group, you know. So even as a 5%er, I had recognized, you know, Master Muhammad, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Minister Farrakhan, you know, as the leaders of our people. So that's how I initially was exposed to it. But I got real deep into it at 14, my freshman year in high school is when brothers shared the lessons. And as young people, we learned the lessons like on the street. And reading Message to the Black Man, The Fall of America, How to Eat to Live, and going to the temple and listening to Minister Farrakhan tapes. I mean, those tapes were like gold, brother. Like gold. Like how hip hop is so fascinating. At that time, one of the elements, there's 5 elements to hip hop. The 5th element is knowledge, right? So the conscious community, heavy into the knowledge. The 5th element, and that's what we kind of represented as young brothers and sisters in Islam. And as you know, from there came a lot of cultural aspects of the hip hop movement and the hip hop culture. Going to Brother Rakim, the Big Daddy Kane, Queen Latifah, I mean, world famous Supreme Team, Just Ice, Karis One, Poor Righteous Teachers, Brand Nubians, everybody came out of that experience. And that experience in our area all started out of Temple number 7 and Temple number 25. Temple number 7 in New York and Temple number 7 in 25. Those were the 2 powerhouse temples, or mosques that really, really solidified the consciousness for that community in New York, in New Jersey. So that's part of my initial orientation into the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Specifically, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches it as the example. So that's how we got it. And been here ever since, brother. And I said, when I was young, I said, when I get of age and get enough discipline, we join in the temple.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Brother. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Ronald, for your comments, and thank you, Brother Janelle. Walaikum salam. When you said the 5 elements of hip hop, I'm younger than you, so pardon my ignorance of that. Can you please put us on to, what are the 5 elements of hip hop?
Yes, sir. Well, initially people spoke of the 4 elements, right?
Okay.
And one of the first elements was like, I would say DJing. Let me start there. DJ. So DJing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another element is MCing.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Then the other element was breakdancing, right? So the breakdance, the up rocking, right?
Okay.
Then the unsung element of today was graffiti. So art, so the street art and the street culture. And then the 5th element was knowledge, because again, as we dealt with these things in 1970s, if you look at all of them, Kool Herc, who's considered the godfather of hip hop, Africa Bambaataa in the Zulu Nation, everybody that dealt with the origins of hip hop were influenced by the teachers of the Nation of Islam. Again, specifically Temple number 7. And even in Temple number 7, Honorable Minister Louis, from Malcolm X even to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, if you look at, he had the 7 speeches, right? So Brother Farrakhan would come on the radio. You would hear Brother Farrakhan again, his tapes. So that was always circulating within the hip hop community. And I would say that was definitely the 5th element, because the Nation of Islam, even these people in hip hop, the founders of hip hop, some of them were from the families of the Nation of Islam. Then of course with the 5 percenters, the Kool Herc, today Kool Herc, you'll see him wear a universal flag of Islam on his shirt sometimes. And you hear him talk about, how it all started, that brothers be around speaking on Islam at the block parties and everything. So yeah, so those are the 5 elements. And the 5th element we really want to pronounce,
Yes, sir.
That's what we need as a people. That's going to be the saving grace. That's part of the arts and culture. There's the mental aspect. You got the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. So the mental and the spiritual, right now, we need to put a huge focus on that. And that's key again, where it all started, from where it starts is where it ends. And we got to land on the teachings. So we still, the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan is still the pinnacle, the example. And today, hip hop artists all gravitate toward the Nation of Islam and the Muslims. Absolutely. And Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. And no matter what you think, no matter how you look at somebody, and I think you do a good job at this, brother, and dealing with understanding and understanding that all these different facets of entertainment across the board, you know, from age to creed, regardless of the religious orientation, and even ethnicity. Because, you know, Mr. Farrakhan, he attract well, man, Chris from Coldplay, you know,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
all
sir.
kind
Yes,
of
sir.
people break their neck to get to the minister, you know, and rightfully so. So you see brothers like Young Thug, all the brothers, no matter
Yes,
what
sir.
you think about these people. I've never ran across, in fact, in me being around in the industry, I never ran across anybody that just scoffed at the knowledge.
Mm,
Like I've been around brothers and they all sat quietly and respectfully to take in the
mm,
knowledge.
mm.
So, you know, like we say, it's a big field. Big field's awake, the wide awake man. So it's fields to work out in. And that's the field we got to go to. The lost
Praise,
God.
praise be to Allah. Brother Ronald was breaking down, was bearing witness to. He's like you,
Mhm.
a founding somebody who's from that generation of the founding members of hip hop. My sister Miriam says, "Assalamu alaikum," and thank you, brother David. Okay, can we spoke? This is why I really wanted to ask you, brother Wakeel, because we come in, we got a lot of history. How can you the 5%? I see almost the majority of the people who I've interviewed from the East Coast came out of the 5% nation.
Right.
What there has been a breakdown of communication to the newer generation where I'm from the Midwest, so it'd be Naperville, but like the suburbs of Chicago, there wasn't a big 5%
Mhm.
influence, nor in Atlanta, there's not a big 5% influence. What is it about the 5% nation that attracts young people? And more, of course, more on the East Coast, but what is it about them and how can we use that to still influence people who don't have the discipline of the nation?
Yes, sir. Um, the origin of the 5%ers, and I always say this to our brothers and sisters in the ranks, that the origins of the 5%ers, it was founded by a group of FOI and MGT.
Mm,
So FOI and MGTs founded the 5%ers.
mm.
So you got brother Clarence 13X,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
who's known as Allah the Father, who was the primary founder, you know. Then you have his companions, if you will. You had a brother named John 37X,
Okay.
who was known as Abu Shahid. You had another brother named James 103X, How, who was known as Forsyth Akbar. We called him Old Man Justice.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
another brother, and a younger brother that they taught while they was in the temple, a brother by the name of Eugene White, who became known as Ubika, who became a very prominent imam later on in the years in the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad, as he came through the nation, 5% the Nation of Islam, then went on to that community, but was always
Yes.
a powerful brother, the lover of his people. So, and then I gotta say the sisters too. Queen Mother Dora 3X. She was the wife of Brother Clarence 13X, and
Okay.
she's the one that brought him into the knowledge herself. He
Mm.
went into the service. That's why it's good to have a good Black woman.
Yes,
He
sir.
went into the service. He fought in the Korean War. And when he came home, there was his wife, a MGT, of the Nation of Islam. The first thing
Mm.
she said is, "Hey, you got to come down here with me to the temple." And he went down to the temple, saw the great, powerful minister Malcolm X. And that was all she wrote, you know. And that was the day, pretty much, he started his path, you know, into the knowledge of himself and became a very dynamic person. Um, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the greatest knowledge that any of us can search for is the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self,
Yes, sir.
right? That is at the core of what we refer to as the 5%ers. Now, I'm almost hesitant to say that because I'll be remiss of saying that that is the core, really, of the teachings of the Nation of Islam, as I said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we were just blessed through the permission of Allah and the person of Master Prophet Muhammad that this knowledge would be exposed to us in the wilderness of North America. And eventually, Allah would compel a group of individuals to see a need in the community, to see that there was youth running up and down the street that were thirsty for it. So the thing is, as I was saying, in today's current environment, the youth are thirsty for it. Naturally, by nature, they're curious, right? And Brother Clarence 13X work was relatively easy as far as exposing us to it. And by that I mean the youth in Harlem, New York in 1964 and 1965 were involved in a real powerful movement and a powerful struggle, just like it is today, in dealing with the police force, a corrupt police force in New York City.
Mm.
As you know, you got white officers, and we know the history of police brutality.
Yes, sir.
And when the Nation of Islam set up the temple at number 7, and one of the pastimes of New York City was, and I'm sure you've seen this on movies, where people would get out on their soapbox, if you will. They would stand on the soapbox. They would stand on the step ladders. They would be down there teaching revolution, from Marcus Garvey to Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moors, but really specifically the Nation of Islam. The
Yes, sir.
Nation
Yes,
of
sir.
Islam, Brother Minister Malcolm X, you would see him right there on 127th Street in 5th Avenue. No, pardon me, 7th Avenue, right? Right where the Harlem State Building is, where you see Brother Malcolm X, and they got those big stands out in the street.
Yes,
He's
sir.
up
Yes,
there,
sir.
he got that big sign behind him. And if you always see him, you see in the background Brother Minister Farrakhan, the young Brother Minister Farrakhan, Brother Minister James Shabazz, at Temple number 25
Yes,
in
sir.
North New Jersey, like Minister Henry there at number 7. And you even see our great dear brother Thomas Jihad,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Brother
sir. Yes,
Thomas
sir.
Jihad, brother James 7X, Brother Najee, all
Yes,
these
sir. Yes,
powerful
sir.
out of New York City, brother. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah.
So the youth were dealing with a skirmish at that time with the police authorities, because these youth was inspired by Brother Minister Malcolm X. So they went from the church mentality now to, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right?
Allahu
You
Akbar.
practice peace, but if somebody swing on you, as we would say, send them to the graveyard. That was just a
Yes,
saying.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Allahu Akbar.
And so the youth had enough. They heard Brother Minister Malcolm. They would go to Temple number 7 to hear the teachers again, just like I would many years later. These brothers were 13, 14, 15. So many of them couldn't join the temple, but they can go down there and visit. And they took the knowledge that they had and they went out in the community. These brothers eventually became known as the Harlem Six, right? They have a movie about the Harlem Six, the torture of mothers. And these brothers became widely known in the country and in the world even for a skirmish that they had with the police, a battle that they had with the police. And many of them had taken on Muslim names, as we all did, as youth, in the 5 percenters. They took on Muslim names. This is before the 5 percenters was actually in existence. This is the precursor to the 5
Okay.
percenters.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry to be long-winded, brother.
No, no,
but
no. I'm just picking all this up.
I get so much of the intricate detail of the history. But these brothers was calling themselves by a Muslim name, Jihad, Amin, Latif. So they all took on these Muslim names because there was already brothers and sisters of the FOI and the MGT that was out in the streets teaching them martial arts, teach them a little piece of the lessons, etc. Teach them about the knowledge of who they are, the black man, and teach them about the knowledge of the white man, and what's going on in America. So these brothers already had the seed planted in them, but they didn't have anybody that would directly mentor them, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And again, this is 64, 65. So in March of 1965, that's when Brother Minister, in December, Minister Malcolm X was suspended, right? And as a result of serving his suspension, due to various reasons, he ended up, leaving the Nation of Islam, leaving the mosque, I should say the temple. And he went on a trip. He went over to Mecca, of course, then he spent some time over in the East. But he already had set this fire in place with these youth through the nation. So it was at that point when the youth got into the fight with the police, right? And the police beat the youth down, and the youth was fighting the police with bricks, rocks, sticks, and everything they could find, right? And when Minister Malcolm came back, they had to have a press conference because they was like, look, these people call themselves the Blood Brothers. Is this your new group? Is this your new group? Your Mau Mau? Because they was calling them the Mau Mau.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The revolutionaries over in Kenya, over in Africa.
Yes, sir. Allahu
And
Akbar.
no one took heads. And so they felt that these youth was inspired by Minister Malcolm, which is true, but he didn't have anything to do with them as far as an organization. And when he came back, being that he was already involved in what he was involved with, in his controversy, he said, no, I don't know them, you know, and they felt kind of betrayed that Malcolm X was kind of hands off, you know, when they asked about them in the press conference. And Brother Malcolm said, well, you know, blood brothers, you know, what was his exact statement? But he said, any black man is a blood brother of mine, right? So you kind of stated that. So these youth known as the Blood Brothers in the Harlem Six, they was walking around again, shaving their heads, salam alaikum. They was wearing a star and crescent. And so Brother Clarence, that was at the time when he found himself outside of the temple, right? And while he was outside of the temple, he ran into younger brothers that was influenced by the Harlem Six, right? And this is another thing I'll just be transparent about. The 5%ers, we would always say, well, you got to come to where we're at, right? So, okay, y'all nice, I got suits and bow ties, but y'all ain't coming where we at because we on the corner smoking reefer. You know, we out here drinking, we getting high, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wherever we at, you know, we doing our thing as youth. And the thing that Brother Clarence did, Father Allah, he would go into those different haunts, if you will. You know, he would find a youth and kind of teach them at that level, right? At the level they was at. So he ran into the brothers. And we call these brothers the firstborn of the 5%ers. Some say the first 9 born. And there was a brother named Kareem. It was a brother named Uhuru. It was a brother named Naheem. A group of brothers, Akbar, Salam, Bilal. It was a group of brothers. And so he taught these brothers initially in a gambling den that they frequented right across the street from where Malcolm would have his stand at. So you see the proximity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a basement where people go down there and they would gamble. And that's where the brothers first met him. And this was the big thing. This what made the whole difference to me why the 5%ers just took off. Because Brother Clarence was kind of the first one to say, okay, you want to learn this? Then boom, here you go. Know this by heart. He gave the lessons out. So he gave them a student room. Who's the original man? Who's the colored man? What's the population of the original nation all over the world and stuff? The whole 9.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay? And that's what created a fraternity and a strong camaraderie because he connected them directly with the root knowledge of Allah and the person of Master Fard Muhammad and the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. So that right there would captivate any black man really at any age. But when you're a youth and impressionable, you already see the vitality of it. You see the benefit of it. And you see black men as heroes. Because, you know, I had Honorable Elijah Muhammad on my wall. I had Brother Farrakhan on my wall. And I was, if I could find it in the final call, cut it out, tape it on the wall, anything I could get. Master Muhammad. And then later Brother Clarence 13X, Old Man Justice. So that right there kind of created a strong bond. And as you know, in the lesson, the 11th lesson, question and answer of Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1. Have you learned that your word shall be bond? Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That your word shall be bond.
Yes, sir.
My word
Yes, sir.
is my bond, and my bond is my life. And I should give my life before my words shall fail. So the bond that it created and the brotherhood that Islam created. So now you saw a dimension of that was in the temple. Now a dimension of that is now out on the street, you know. And I would be remiss if I would just say it was just Brother Clarence and his immediate group, but it was an influence of, as the New York Times said, it said there were hundreds. It said there was at least 5,000 people out in the streets in New York that was teaching. And if you see Man-Child and read the book Man-Child in the Promised Land about Claude McKay, I believe, he speaks of how in the 50s, they was on the street, again, on the soapboxes, on the step ladders, teaching on the history of Yaqub and Asiatic black man, John Hart and Hawkins, and all this information. So when that knowledge took place on the street, now mind you, they also were teaching the martial arts, because FOI was teaching the brothers the martial arts on the street.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And many brothers had the same background as Brother Clara 13X did. Like I said, he was in the army, he was in the service, right, before he joined the nation. So he knew martial arts there. Then when he got in the Nation of Islam with the FOI class, they had all these FOI that was trained in military science, right? Trained in
Yes,
the
sir.
martial arts. And many of them also had military backgrounds, right? And brother, when you match the two, the supreme wisdom with the military background, remember, it was Allah himself in the person of Master Muhammad that set up the FOI class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Class. So it was God's class.
Yes, sir.
So God's class is just that, so it gives you a backbone when you stand up. You're not a so-called Negro anymore. You
Yes,
are God, God of the universe.
Yes, sir.
The original man, the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. So that really inspired the youth. And now, even the critics, the journalists, and the police authorities, they said when the teachers of the Nation of Islam hit the street, they was now calling them a super gang. That's what they referred to the youth as. They said they're a super gang because this youth, they're not afraid of anything. And again, if the police was beating somebody up on the street, these youths was like, okay, we here for it. Bring it on.
Wow.
And that's exactly, it's ironic you would say that because that was the alarm. They were given the alarm of Allahu Akbar. And when you heard Allahu Akbar, as they say today, it was lit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Came out, it was lit. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it was lit.
Yes, sir.
So this is the culture of the Nation of Islam as it reflects and permeates the youth. And I can't leave this out because, this visual's always in my head, brother. Coming to Boston at 15, and you would be out there with the junior FOI, like in the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
See, and brother, when you see the formation, I mean, you living it out, as you were a junior FOI,
yes, sir.
And how you were instructing the young brothers, and how you coming up, you pretty much was born in the Nation of Islam, right? So,
yes,
it was a brother from the Harlem Six named Amin, who we call him I God, a great, powerful brother. He's one of the Harlem Six. So he's one of the ones that Malcolm X was referring to, Ruby D and Ossie Davis was referring to. And the brother said, you know what? He said, Wakeel, when I was working on my book, In the Name of Allah, History of Clan 13X and the Five Percenters, the first volume, he told me, he said, you know how we got really inspired? He said, brother, we was on 129th Street. He said, man, and the junior FOI came down the street storming. They was stomping. He said, man, when we saw that, we was like, wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whether they marched the junior FOI down 129th Street, he said. And so when brothers see that, and even when you go to our drill competitions, and I think it's important. I think if we could have and of course you've done it, like it is important to have, and this would be part of the culture to me, because one thing I left out in hip hop, and people don't talk about it, but it was like what we call double dutch, right? And the sisters was powerful, as related to double dutch.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jumping rope,
Yes,
double
sir.
dutch. They jump rope, the two ropes, and they done all these little like gymnastics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's another aspect too. Gymnastics, I would say, is part of hip hop. Flipping, tumbling, all of that, even down to swimming. It's all to diving, brother. It's amazing the talent that we have in the Black community. Of course, that eventually goes pro with the Serena Williams,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tiger
Yes, sir.
Woods,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and different in ballerina, everything. We permeate everything. But it was that culture, that you saw in the street, in the community, that when it was married with the wisdom, became so important to the youth. And then later, like I said, from that, hip hop came about. Even from the musicians, Brother James Brown, who the Godfather.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Godfather. So
yes, sir.
Soul
Yes, sir.
Brother number one.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Many of us use his break beats in the beginning and dealing with DJing and then rapping over the break beats, right?
Yes,
and he say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, right? James Brown was highly influenced by the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
Everybody of consciousness was influenced by the Nation of Islam,
Yes, sir.
period. So I say all that to say, brother, all we have to do is expose the people to the teachers of the Nation of Islam. Is tailor-made, customized specifically for the Black man and woman in North America. It's hard. In my day, you couldn't resist it. See, we became, many of us, I left this part out, but the teachers of the Nation of Islam, as well as the 5%ers, took root in the penal institutions, right? So a lot of brothers was in prison, a lot of brothers went to jail, and we talking about juvenile correctional facilities, right? And of course, I remember me and Brother George from Mosque number 15 in Atlanta.
Okay.
We were our soldier one day. He said, Brother Wakeel, he said, why do you think the brothers in prison, gravitate toward the teachers of the Nation of Islam? And we was like, Brother George is a scientist. So he said, brother, know what, brother, let me give that some thought. Brother, let me give it some thought. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He said, that's where they're the most hungriest for the knowledge, right? I said, yeah, brother, praise be to Allah. And that is true, so the militancy aspect for the brothers out of the juvenile facilities, as well as the most dominant brothers in the community, in the hood, if you will, again, it's talking about New York and New Jersey. They were like leaders, or what we would call dukes, like the Duke of the block, meaning that this one on this block, he could beat anybody on the block.
Yes, sir. Yes,
or, this society may say, oh, gang leaders. But once they got the knowledge of self, and everybody got the knowledge of self, you couldn't help but to get it. You couldn't resist it. You really couldn't. And as they were strict in the Nation of Islam, like I said, they brought that strictness out of the temple and instilled it in some of us that was in the community. So we became very enthusiastic about learning the lessons. So I would quiz you on your lesson. And let me speak of that if I can.
Yes, sir.
The knowledge of the lessons, because I remember, and I used to get so mad, when in the mosque, some people were trying to say that was a 5% thing, the lessons. That would just blow my top whenever I would hear that. Because Master Fraud Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are the authors of the lessons.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's where the credit go to. And they're the ones who gave the directive that you have to learn these by heart.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To the laborers. And you will be tested on this knowledge.
That's right. That's right.
And when the 5%ers got it, that was the culture of the Nation of Islam. So as an FOI, and I guess as an MGT, I can't speak on the MGT side, but side. But I'm sure they were raised sharp. But it's just that, that's their class. It's our class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In the FOI, as well documented by Brother Minister Malcolm X, and the autobiography of Malcolm X, is well documented by Brother Minister Benjamin Kareem, and even the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has told us. I remember one of the last times he came to Atlanta, he told us again to focus and study on the lessons during our study.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that was the culture. So when you was in Temple number 7 as a FOI, when you would come to FOI class, you would get your lessons. Now today, we kind of get our lessons like here, like boom, like in one setting, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They didn't do it like that then. You kind of had to earn your lesson degree by degree. So the captain, say like a Yusuf Shah at number 7, who was known as Captain Joseph at one time. Then Brother First Officer Lieutenant Clarence 7X.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
The captain and the first officer, naturally over the FOI class, of course the ministers over everybody, but they were responsible for teaching you the lessons. So whenever you come to class, well, what lesson you on? oh, well, I'm on the 8th question and answer of Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1. Okay,
Yes,
brother,
sir.
recite it. You would have to recite it. A lot of them keep all people apart for all social equality.
Yes, sir.
They recite the question and answer. And once they were satisfied with that, they would give you a little typed out the next lesson,
Mm,
the 9th
mm,
question and answer, right? And that's how you will learn it, coming to
mm,
FOI class.
mm.
So all the brothers with Minister Malcolm X, Brother Farrakhan, the Thomas Jahads, the Brother Najees of the world, the Brother Minister Akbar, of course, how can I forget Minister Abdul Akbar Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
these brothers, Brother Minister Jabril Muhammad was in Mosque number 7 too. Initially, they all had to know their lessons by heart. And you learn that, if you live in the FOI house or whatever, you will learn that. So Brother Clara 13X was part of that class.
Mm, mm.
And so as he learned it from them, he just came out again and brought the same template and aspect and just taught the youth in the street. So that's something that started with the Nation of Islam and is still supremely relevant in the Nation of Islam. And as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, he likens it into the lessons. He said, like a baby being born, like a newborn baby being in the womb and having a liner of protection around it, and the umbilical cord, it serves as a filter to filter out the poison of the food prior to
Yes,
it
sir.
getting to the baby. And he said that's how the lessons are with us. So anything that we study, which the lessons say we can study, or we know the sciences of everything in life, anything that we can study, we can filter it through the lessons.
Yes,
And
sir.
there's no other person outside of Master Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You can really think of 2 other people that have prominent positions in the world that will baffle the scholars, baffle the best news reporters and journalists. They got, pretty much will dumbfound anybody. Brother Minister Malcolm X, when he was in that seat, and then the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And we see how Brother Farrakhan, brother, with the amount of time that he's had amongst us,
Yes, sir.
brother. And I know I'm long-winded here, but I want to say this real
Oh, no, no,
quick.
no, no. Take your time. Take your time.
Brother Minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he was doing his walking tours, he came to New York City. And I'd be remiss if I ain't recognize our beloved brother, Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
His
Yes, sir.
recent
Yes, sir. Yes,
transition,
sir.
Allahu Akbar.
Oh, welcome.
And another powerful brother that we will definitely miss. And he was a brother that came in also through the same experience I'm telling you about, through the
Yes, sir. Yes,
Father
sir.
Center. And eventually he would come to be the minister of number 7 in New York, which is
Yes, sir.
profound. When the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan did the walking tour in New York, in New Jersey, in Newark, I had the honor of, I came up there and had the honor of being on part of the walking tour. And so I saw everything firsthand. That's how the people love Brother Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then he came over to Newark and we went to Central High School. Okay. Brother Raz Baraka, who's the mayor of Newark now.
Yes, sir.
The great Raz Baraka, Mayor Raz Baraka.
Yes, sir.
He was the principal of Central High School, right? He invited the minister to come speak to the students. Now, again, these are students in the high school. So I had the honor to go in there because I know Brother Raz and I know a couple of other brothers in the administration and some of the teachers there. Brother Mustafa, he's an imam in the community, Imam W.D. Muhammad. He was also a teacher there. And anyhow, the minister was a surprise guest. So Brother Raz, Mayor Raz, as the principal, had all of the students come into the auditorium. So we all came in the auditorium. So I sat in the auditorium way in the back behind the students, right? So Brother Raz like, today we got a surprise guest. He's like, what's going on? Y'all calling us out of class, what's going on?
Mm.
Brother Farrakhan comes out with the E-team, and they looking like, yo, what's going on? Right? Because they like, who's this? You know, the president? Like, what
Yes,
is this?
yes,
Like,
sir,
what?
yes, sir, yes, sir.
They try to process this. Like, who is this? Because they don't know. Because they a young generation, they didn't really know who Brother Farrakhan was.
That's right.
So
That's
they're
right.
like, okay, well, who's he? Who is he? So it's confusion in the auditorium. Who is he? What's going on? Who's that? All Brother Ross had to do was get a minister to, the mic. Minister starts to speak. That's the beautiful voice of that angel. The youth, because again, I'm right there sitting around with them. They like, now they becoming still when they heard him speak, right? Then the minister, I remember he said this. He said, the front row, right? He said, I want to ask you young people something. He said, if somebody shows you a picture that has you in it, what's the first thing you look for? Everyone's like, we look for ourselves. That's right. You look for yourself, right?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
And I'm here to teach you the knowledge of self.
Mm.
Brother Minister started speaking on the teachers. And I think I was in there for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. He ended it saying, the black man is God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are gods. I don't know what all religious affiliation is there, but in Newark is heavy predominantly, Muslim on the Orthodox side.
Yes,
But
sir.
brother,
Yes, sir.
they was chanting it back. He convinced them in that short period of time, and they fell in love with the minister, where they didn't really want him to leave. When he left, when he left, they had like we have holdover meetings.
Yes, sir.
They had
Yes,
a
sir. Yes,
holdover
sir.
meeting
Yes, sir.
in the
Yes, sir.
auditorium. And brother, when I say those youth was on fire, he was telling the truth. That's what we need. That's what we need to be learning. He was telling the truth. So they let some of the youth come up. They let some of the students come up and take the mic where Brother Minister was, after, before he left. Well, he was gone at this time. And they grabbed the mic and he was like, look, I don't know. What's that man's name again? What's his name? Yeah, he was teaching the truth, and that's what we need to know. That's what we need to know. Do y'all think he was teaching the truth? They clapped and they like all up in. I was like, brother, that's the nature of the teachers. Of course, that's the anointed one. It's hard to compare anybody to him.
Yes,
But
sir. Yes, sir.
he is a product of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
He's
That's
a
right.
national representative of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad in the nation of Islam. That is the example. And we follow that example, brother. I mean, it would be on fire. And on us, I would say, historically speaking, maybe on a relatively smaller scale as a result of the history, because he had a short period of time, even though his work impacted the multitudes. That's what the father, Brother Clarence 13X, did.
Yes, sir.
He went straight to the youth and he taught them that. And then the youth went and they started teaching one another. That's why it's so important as young brothers and sisters in the nation to talk to the other young brothers and sisters in the nation. In fact, as the lessons say, the younger brothers and sisters in the nation should be the piece with the magnetic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Piece with magnetic. And in the world of hip hop, in my generation, it's understood that all respect is due to a Muslim. So you will see, from the likes of anybody and everybody, from Jay-Z, Puffy, everybody. I can't think of anybody. Fat Joe, Rick Ross, T.I., I don't know of anybody that resists the minister or the teachers when they hear it. So we do have friendships in all walks of life. It's just a matter of us amplifying it and doing more, in accordance with the instructions, the divine instructions from the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. And I know I say his name a lot, and we say his name a lot, and it's not like it's a worship thing. It's just that, we was talking about music. I maybe mentioned Michael Jackson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Talking about Michael Jordan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
LeBron James.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So just in this field of knowledge and getting to our people by the multitude, that is a great example. And that is the tradition of the 5%ers. And Brother Minister has always had a great, powerful connectivity with the 5%ers. I remember they shared with us that the 5%ers was a divine thing, because from what I was told by one of the ministers back then in the 80s, because I remember Mr. Louis Farrakhan said it's still around. That never went down. The brothers and sisters are still here. That's a
Yes, sir.
divine
Yes, sir.
thing.
Yes, sir.
And the reason why it's divine, for those who actually adhere and follow the aspect of the 5%ers, because there's 5%ers that tell you there's many jive percenters, there's more jive percenters, meaning frauds, than actual 5%.
Yes, sir.
There's
Yes, sir.
5%,
Yes, sir.
10%, and 85% in every category. But the 5% of the 5%, the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan always had that connection. And when he first started to rebuild the Nation of Islam, as you know, like I said, my aunt and everybody went through a transition from 1975 to 1977, and the Nation of Islam converted to the path of quote unquote Orthodox Islam, or Sunni Islam, under the direction at the time of Brother Minister Wallace D. Muhammad, Imam Waq D. Muhammad. When Brother Minister started standing back up, as I said, there was the Muslim brothers there where I was from that was assisting and helping them. But then they had to take it from there in Jersey and go back to New York. Now in New York, there was some opposition in New York.
Yes,
there was
sir.
opposition, period. If you was with the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in 77 and 78, you had some powerful enemies and adversaries. There were people that wanted to kill you for talking respectfully of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I'm talking about former followers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when the minister had to rebuild, and he had that great, powerful army, like I said, we call his brother the general. And like you said, as you know, as from them to 1977, all the way down, of course, Brother Mustafa, all of the brothers, so many brothers, I'll be remiss, there's so many. They had that powerful army, but on the East Coast, Brother Kareem had that army, and they went into New York and they established a temple in New York, or a study group in New York, and they made it so that the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan would return to New York. See, he had to return to New York because everybody knew him as a national representative, but this time he's coming to New York after the fall to lift up the name of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so he had to get who he can get. Some of the former followers wasn't trying to hear it. A small minority of them were. And it was brothers from the 5%ers that also jumped up and assisted. Like I said, Ether was synonymous. So they said, oh, Brother Farrakhan rebuilding the Nation of Islam. So here they come. So within that group, Brother Minister Abdul Hafiz.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother Nelson, Brother Abdul Haq. I mean, so many brothers. True Mathematics. I mean, there's so many, many brothers. Brother, he'll kill me if I don't mention his name. Brother Alamel Allah, or Brother Franklin Muhammad, former lieutenant and number 7. All these great brothers that helped rebuild the Nation of Islam is still today within the Nation of Islam, and influenced the likes of myself, Brother Wesley, Brother J Electronica, Brother Malou Sadiq, Brother Understanding. So many of us came down this path. And that was one of the predictions or the prophetic aspects of Brother Clarence 13X. He said in teaching these youth that he wanted some of them to go to the temple. I want you to go join the temple. This one, I want you to go join the temple. One, it'll help yourself get the discipline that you need, and you'll be in a position to help your people, right? So he spoke of that this seed that he was dropping to a segment of the population of the brothers and sisters that were 5%ers would join on to the temple or the Nation of Islam, specifically join on to the FOI and the MGT. So when you look at it, guess that was a prophetic, and I guess it was or is divine, as was alleged Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan has stated, that, you know, many of us would be in the Nation of Islam, and many of us would be great helpers, you know, or striving to be, you know, believers in the Nation of Islam. And so that has happened. And, you know, there's a controversy in the 5%. It also went through sort of a transition in a sense. There's different schools of thought within the 5%. And as you have some of the brothers that are in the nation or love the nation, you got some brothers that's like, hey, that ain't, nah, and they scoff at that. And they say,
Yes,
nah,
sir.
they have a disdain for it, right? And I always tell them, brother, because they think that, well, some of them think, you know, the older ones know better. Because the older ones know that Father Allah, Clarence 13X, loved the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I had a great relationship with the elders, his companions, and they always taught me, you know, very powerful information about that. And they recognize Honorable Elijah Muhammad as the messenger of Allah, their leader, teacher, and guide, right? And I tell the brothers, show me, you'll be hard pressed, even for us in the Nation of Islam, to show me another brother, as Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan said in Phoenix, Arizona, at Arizona State, I believe it was, when some brothers laughed at the notion or the mentioning of Brother Clarence 13X. He said, wait a minute, hold on. You know, why knock a man? You know, look at his work. You know, why knock a man who has works for his faith? You know, where are yours? Right? And I tell brothers, you know how many brothers and sisters Clarence 13X brought into the knowledge of self or made Muslims in the Nation of Islam? More than most. With hip hop, Public Enemy, everything, brother, more than most. So what he did in sharing the wisdom of the lessons, the supreme wisdom, I think has validated him in a certain position
Yes,
in
sir.
history. Because the way the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan so beautifully says it out of the Holy Qur'an. The work of any worker, right? You know, Allah does not waste the work of any worker.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Those brothers, those FOI and MGT from number 7, that took that part of that tradition and brought it to the street and gave it to the youth, the babies, 8 years old up to 21 years old. Allah did not waste their work. So that's why we had a great brother minister, Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, that was on that post so long in New York City, right? He was a worker, brother. He was a worker. Every time I spoke to Brother Hafiz, he was in motion. Minister Abdul Hafiz, Muhammad, praise Allah. Always in motion. And yeah, so we're here today, brother, as Muslims, you know, and many of us on the 5% tradition, they refer to us as the Muslim gods, you know, the Muslim gods, the gods of the 5% that identify as Muslim, thus, you know, the Muslim gods. Because as Mr. Louis Farrakhan says, in Closing the Gap, that the real true understanding of a Muslim is God, that a Muslim is God. You know, he says it's a very uncommon understanding, but it's the correct understanding. So whenever we are Muslims, meaning one that submit to do the will of Allah, one of peace, one that is righteous, when we submit to do the will of Allah, we become that highest instrument to manifest the will of Allah as the physical being of the Black man and woman, right? So when you are a Muslim, as Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and Brother Clarence used to refer to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Some say he referred to him as the only Muslim in North America, right? Meaning Elijah Muhammad is the only one that could really call himself a Muslim. And then he would call him the holy Muslim, right? Holy is anything not mixed, tampered, or diluted with. Holy is something that is pure. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, being considered by the 5%ers as the holy Muslim or the pure Muslim, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that our Savior has arrived, that he got to the point where he would submit to do the will of Allah, that his will became one with Allah's will. That's deep, brother. That's the Christ right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's another man out here that's demonstrating that to us.
Yes, sir.
My,
Yes, sir.
my humble opinion.
Yes, sir.
So, yes, brother, it's a very profound pathway. It's a very historical course for those that came in through the path of the 5%ers into the Nation of Islam. However, like Brother Dr. Wesley always liked to say when he was on the Breakfast Club, because we always get that question. Well, you come from the 5%ers, he's like, hold on, I'm still a 5%er.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? Because who are the 5%? That's the 16th question of the Lost Time Muslim.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Decade of 1 through 40. So who are the 5% of this poor part of the planet Earth? Master Prophet Muhammad asking the question. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad answering the question. They are the poor righteous teachers.
That's right.
Who
That's
do
right.
not believe in the teachers of the 10%, who are all wise and know who the true and living God is.
That's right.
Who teach that the true and living God is the Son of Man. We know
that's
the
right.
Son of
That's
Man.
Right. That's
the
right.
Supreme Being, the Black man of Asia, who teach freedom, justice, and equality to all the human families of the planet Earth. And if you got any kind of question about it, they make it plain in the last sentence. Otherwise known as the civilized people, also is the Muslim and the Muslim son. Just in case anybody got a question, those are the 5%ers. We are the 5%ers. And again, we should be proud of that. And Brother Minister said to me one time, and I think I got the full understanding of it today. And he was saying that those of us that came in through the 5%, none of us should feel ever ashamed about getting Islam from Brother Clarence. You should be proud of that. You should be proud of that you got it from that brother. Then he made a joke about it, saying, that brother, man, you was teaching the lessons, right? All you brothers know the lessons. He was like, all the Muslims should know the lessons. Right? So we should definitely follow the example of the class. And it's just one part of it, of course. And learning it by heart, being able to recite it word for word, have it in the mind, coming out the tongue and the mouth, be able to speak it. But we don't want to be lip professors with it, of course.
Yes, sir.
But that's the beautiful thing about the Nation of Islam. The brothers and sisters at the Nation of Islam walk the walk. They talk the talk and walk the walk for the most part. It has earned the great respect of the community. So, taking it all round table here, this is, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you get the knowledge of self, you will fall in love with yourself, right? You fall in love with yourself, you do for self, right? So all we got is do for self. And once we get up, all of humanity comes up. That's why it says in that lesson, the 5% teach all the human families of the planet Earth.
That's right.
We've seen again a man do it. The World Friendship Tour. Brother Minister has been all over the planet Earth.
Yes, sir.
And brother, loved. And our people, I remember some of our brothers and sisters that was in the Orthodox community kind of would try to make mockery of us. And they would say, well, y'all not accepted over there in the East like we would be accepted. And of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad already went over there.
That's right. That's right.
And then the minister went back over there. Then this rise, the second rise, resurrection.
Yes, sir.
Wow. What a welcoming committee they had for him.
That's right.
Everywhere.
That's right.
Including Mecca. And he just came back from Mecca.
That's right.
Brother, this is it.
Beautiful.
As our great brother, Jabril Muhammad said, this is the one. We need not look for another.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know
okay.
what I mean?